Now we are on lesson 15, which covers the perfect and the pluperfect. So if we go to our chart of tenses here, we are now finishing our chart of tenses. So we've looked at the present and the imperfect, which have imperfective aspect, so that more usually are often translated in kind of an ongoing sense. The future and the aorist have perfective aspect, often translated kind of in a simple, limited kind of way. And then we have perfect and pluperfect, which are combinative aspect. You will hear combinative, I'm using this term, some people use this term. There are different ways that people talk about aspect and the perfect and pluperfect. But combinative is just one, I think, a helpful way to think about it. And just know that there's debates that you'll get into later in your career with Greek, but I think for the most part, combinative makes sense of most uses. So if we go to our chart here, combinative is what it sounds like. It combines both a perfective and an imperfective state of a verb, okay? So here, a perfect tense we usually translate with have. So here, I have eaten the sandwich, okay? So this is, imagine somebody telling you, Luke, you need to eat your sandwich. And I say, I have eaten my sandwich. What I'm saying is there is a past event that is done. It was completed in the past. That is, I ate the sandwich. Okay? The simple past action. I ate the sandwich. But there's an ongoing state that I am now in this new state of having eaten the sandwich, the state of a finished sandwich, that has present relevance. Okay? That's what the imperfect means. I have eaten my sandwich, meaning I'm in a state now where the sandwich is finished because in the past I ate it. And so thinking about it like this, where I'm referring to the present state, usually in the perfect verb, but this state only came about from a past action. The pluperfect, if we remember our chart here, remember the augment pushes the action into the past when we add the augment. So pluperfect has an augment. And so the pluperfect is just the perfect, but one step back in the past. So, going back down. Now, we just move the speaker here. So, think of the action has been pushed back into the past. And so this would be like if I was retelling the story I just told you and said, somebody came to Luke and said that he should eat a sandwich, but he told them that he had eaten his sandwich. So I'm still talking about that same kind of event, but now I'm talking about it as somebody who's talking about the whole thing as a past event. So often the pluperfect is more removed from the narrative. And they're talking about a narrative. So so this would be normally translated with had. That's a way of pushing it one step into the past. And that is all of the tenses in Greek. You now know this full chart. So how do we form the perfect and the pluperfect? And you're going to notice here that we have to learn the fourth and fifth principal parts. So the fourth principal part is the perfect active. The fifth principal part is the perfect middle and passive indicative. So what does that mean? So go to our principal parts. So here, let's just go to gnosko here. So this is the present and the imperfect. We'll use this one. The future uses the second principal part chart. The aorist, which we learned last time, uses the third principal part. And now, the perfect active will use the fourth, and the perfect middle passive will use the fifth. And the pluperfect will use these as well. So if you're writing gnosko, you're writing out and you're wondering, I wonder, does gnosko change? What is the form of the perfect? You would come and look at the fourth and fifth principal part columns, and this would give you, this is the first singular form of it. But then you can form, the endings of the rest to form the others. So looking at our master verb chart from Mounds, let's scroll down here. So we've learned pretty much all of these. Not all of, like we haven't learned what liquid means and stuff, but most of these should be pretty familiar. Like the present, we use the present tense stem, that's the first column, with the primary active endings. That's this top left. The present middle passive still uses the present tense stem. That's the first column. And then it uses primary middle passive endings. So we're over here, primary middle passive. We go to the imperfect adds the augment. It's still in the first column of the principal part chart. And then uses secondary active endings. So imperfect uses this side. And then the future uses the future active, which is the second column. Aorist forms will use the third column, aorist active and middle. You'll notice here that aorist passive has its own stem. That's going to be the sixth, but you don't have to worry about that now. And then here we have the perfect, which uses the perfect active with the primary active endings. Okay, and then also adds the le, which means reduplication. We'll get into that. And ka, which is the tense formative. So similar to how aorist uses sa, perfect uses ka. So primary, active, and middle passive. So the perfect is over here with the primary tenses. So it's on this half of the chart of the endings that it uses. Okay, so what is this reduplication that this is talking about? So you're going to see, okay, the forms here. This is luo. The first consonant, the la, the lamed, is going to get reduplicated with an epsilon at the beginning. So rather than luo, it becomes lelu. And then you add the ka, and then add the primary endings. So the o, is, e, omen, et, usin endings. You can kind of see those here. O, is, e, omen, et, usin. They're a little changed, but they're recognizable. So you'll have to just note where the differences are. So here is where you get into all of the complexities of how reduplication happens. So verbs beginning with a vowel or a diphthong are reduplicated by lengthening the vowel or the diphthong. The result is that the reduplication is identical to augmenting. That's really important. So like agapao here becomes igapeka. And so you look and you notice that you have it lengthened here, and you're like, oh, it must be past tense, because the augment's added. But then when you go and look, you're going to notice, oh no, ka. So this is a perfect. Rather than sa, it's not an aorist, it's a ka, so it must be perfect. So these are probably the most annoying in terms of the perfect. Then here, verbs beginning with aspirated consonants, so like kind of the ones that take more breath to do, so fi, theta, and chi, they will take their unaspirated forms with pi, tav, and kappa. So phileo becomes pe phileka. Pevo becomes te therapeka. And notice how all these have that ka. So that'll be a really good giveaway for at least the first perfect, normal perfects. Yeah. So rather than having fe phileka, it's pe, which is just, it's easier to say. And then verbs beginning with a double consonant or two consonants are reduplicated with an epsilon. So psi, zeta, xi. So zeteo becomes zetica. And if you come across this zetica, what? Why does it have ka with an augment? This is where having your principal part chart is going to be helpful, because you can come and just look up zeteo right here, and you come over to the perfect, and there it is. You see zetica. And that will help you know, oh, okay, so the reduplication, I remember, it's just an epsilon with some of these letters. And then fourth, there are some that are just wholly unpredictable. And this is, again, where the principal part chart will help you in recognizing these. You might need to just memorize these as part of your vocab because they are different. But a lot of them you can notice. So like akuo becomes a keikoa. You can kind of see the akuo in there. So you might not need that one. Now for the pluperfect. The pluperfect is similar to the perfect, and it's a pretty rare tense, actually. So that's why it's kind of just tacked in at the end of this chapter. So it also has the reduplication, but it adds an augment, right, because we're pushing it into the past. And then rather than ka, it adds ki, that is kappa, epsilon, iota, tense formative throughout, you can see that. And now, since it has the augment, it's a secondary tense, and so it's going to use the secondary endings. So the on, s, and omen, eta, on endings. Yeah, and then it just gives you some common forms that you can kind of see how the reduplication and added ka tense formative works. So, all right, that's it for this video.
We hope you enjoyed this episode of the Bible Toolbox. All of the resources mentioned in this episode are posted on our website, thebibletoolbox.com. There you can also find out more information on how to give and support us. And we have loved all of the encouragement and feedback we've received from you. So thanks so much.